Mary Louise Cook for the Big Sky Conference, joined by a panel of basketball coaches, both men's and women's, from around the conference to provide an update on how things are going with playing sports in the most unconventional times. So I have with me Travis DeCuire of Montana men's basketball, Valeda Harris of Weber State women's basketball, Trisha Binford of Montana State women's basketball, and Todd Simon of Southern Utah men's basketball. So Coach Simon, we'll go ahead and start off with you. How do you assess how your team has handled playing during a pandemic?
Yeah, it's been a unique experience, but we're pretty pleased with kind of how we've handled the ups and downs of the season, and we've kind of preached kind of controlling our controllables this year and rolling with the punches and being able to pivot as things kind of come our way. And to our guys' credit, we feel like we've had good practices, and that's kind of where it starts and where we gauge our season by at this point.
Now, Coach Binford, when I spoke with your athletic director, Leon Costello, a while ago, he gave so much credit to the basketball teams there for the way that you all have handled just getting to play with all the protocols and everything like that. Can you kind of just walk us through what it looks like when you're practicing or playing at home, what that looks like for our fans who don't know?
Yeah, I mean, it really starts with everybody comes through the building. I got my band on today. Which one? Oh, there it is. My green band for today. You do your temp checks, you get your band to enter the building, and then kind of starts from there. You get your 3 tests in per week, and you really try to have practices seem as normal as possible. I think the biggest difference for us in a practice setting right now is we don't have scout guys that in a traditional year we might have in, but they're not part of that small tier 1 group. And you just want to do your best of limiting exposure opportunities so you can tip up the ball on a Thursday. And really, I think people cross their fingers to get to that Wednesday afternoon where both teams have gotten those answers, because at the end of the day, I think getting the opportunity to compete and play is great for kids mentally during such a challenging time. And as coaches, we just want to be able to support them the right way. And those practices that we get, I don't think any of us on the screen, those kids, we're not wasting, because you just don't know how many of those you're going to get.
Now, you touched on a term, tier 1 group. Can you explain what that is for those who might not know? That's something that's new this season.
Yeah, my fault on that. So like right now with the NCAA guidelines for your travel party, you are considered, your tier 1 is anybody in that travel party. So coaches, your trainer, your players, all of those people that are going to be on that travel party or are on your bench have to have 3 negative tests per week prior to that tip off in that game. And so that travel party, you just want to kind of protect them as much as possible. We call them, everybody calls it your bubble, so to speak, of, you're going to spend a lot of time together. And I just don't know if people really understand when we leave this gym, they're still going back home to those same people. Some of us coaches, we have some families we're going back to, but it's really hard to get that break. When you leave the court, you're still going home to those same people, and you just want to keep everybody as safe as possible to get an opportunity to play.
Yeah, thank you for your clarification on that. Coach DeCuire, what has been the greatest challenge that you've been faced with as a coach since the pandemic began?
The biggest thing that stands out to me, and I think this is nationwide, inside and out of athletics, is mental health. We lack balance right now. None of us have our usual outlets when we need time to step away. Student athletes are returning to their apartments or their dorms. As a staff, as a coach, I'm going home to my family, but that's just my household. And so your extended family, you don't get to spend time with. The student athletes are struggling with that as well. So I think the mental health is the biggest thing right now is just trying to find ways to manage yourself on the day-to-day and not feel like it's Groundhog Day.
What has been different for you in the way that you've managed your mental health compared to other years?
For me, I've probably watched more athletics on TV outside of my own preparation than normal. And then, one-on-one conversations with staff members, our players, family, a lot more time on the phone right now than probably in the past. But that's been very difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough time. And it seems like you all have been really prioritizing the mental health of your student athletes, and I hope that you're doing that for yourselves as well. Now, Coach Harris, speaking of mental health and challenges, your team has faced 6 cancellations so far due to COVID. How do you keep your team motivated in the midst of that? And then if we want to throw in that mental health piece as well, how are you helping with that?
Well, it's kind of like Coach Simon said, it's control what you can, and Trisha talked about this, is that we have certain protocols, that we have to do. And we talked to our kids before the season and let them know that everybody's going to be hit with it. Now, did we know we were going to be hit with it this much? No. It's affected us after our road trips. And so it's really about controlling what we can, because it spreads, right? And so are we following what we're supposed to do? Are we spending the time, and like Trisha said, in practice, it's valuable. We've had probably half the practice that we normally have at this point, really. So it's just about us, when you come back from your quarantine, your isolation, you have the support, you have your teammates there. So let's just take advantage of said opportunities. It's the biggest piece. And we have something we call Wellness Wednesdays, literally with one of our mental health professionals on campus, where Wednesday they come in and our kids just sit and talk about it, because it's literally been every other week for us. And I really applaud the student athletes, because it's like Travis said, you come to practice, you go home, you come back to practice, you go home. So they don't get that, that opportunity to touch different people in different aspects, or just go to the store, as much as they want to. So it's really about just embracing the opportunity that we have. And it's about the present. We take one day at a time, because we don't know if on Wednesday we'll have that clear test or not. So we just worry about today. We do what we're supposed to do. And then tomorrow we'll deal with whatever comes. Those are the biggest pieces to it. I think just control what you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, talking to coaches, control the controllables is something that is always said, but it has never been more appropriate. So Coach Simon, now aside from the COVID protocols and the cancellations, what would you say is the biggest difference in this basketball season compared to a season under normal circumstances?
Well, I would say, the rhythm of the season is just so dramatically different. As you build a program, build your season, and build up for a season, there's a certain rhythm you have to preseason practice and skill work and conditioning, and there's kind of a timing to it. And this year, with season being pushed back, the way the scheduling works, 1 week into the year, we're already playing conference games. It's just such a different rhythm to the season. You're not being able to develop players, get them time on the floor. We're kind of, going on the fly, and everything counts, and you just try to get whatever development in when you can, because you don't, like Coach said, you don't know if you got to value that practice, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so it's just the rhythm of the season is so dramatically different. And that would probably be the biggest difference to me.
Thank you for that. Now, Coach Binford, the way that things ended for your team in Boise last year was just really difficult. I mean, difficult for everyone, but, especially for your team being there in the end. I know that you don't have a lot of those seniors who were there last year, but what's the significance of having the conference tournament to look forward to now at the end of this season?
Well, I think at the end of the day, hope is the first word that just pops into the head. Everything starts with hope, right? You want hope for playing time. You want hope for things to turn the corner here in the pandemic. And when you play basketball, everybody's got that goal and that end game and that end line of, there's two ways they get a cut down a net. It's winning your conference, and it's winning the Big Sky tournament. And I think it's just such a great motivator. Motivation carries you through so many difficult situations, period. So I think it's exciting to have that opportunity, and we're just going to have to wait and see how this all plays out as far as it goes. But you definitely want to have that starting point of that great hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Coach DeCuire, I know that the fan culture is very important, where you are. So how is your team filling the void of having no fans this season?
It's been tough, a little awkward. I think at the beginning of the season, we kind of got used to the game somewhat feeling like practice. But the biggest thing for us is just generating our own energy. And we have pretty competitive practices. So we were accustomed to that. It took a little time. In terms of just home games, having that environment or lack of, but knowing that everyone's going through this for the most part, our guys have just found ways to be excited about the opportunity to play. knowing that they could be, stuck in their apartments, not playing at all. So I think the energy has been easy for them to create on their own.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. No, Coach Harris, looking at these past few weeks of basketball, what is the most valuable lesson that you and your team have learned?
Well, there's so many, like accountability, responsibility, just in mental warfare. I think the biggest thing is gratitude, though. Honestly, that we have the opportunity to play. So we can't take, as coaches, as players, you don't take for granted the opportunity to play, because just honestly on this panel, whoever thought that we'd never have sport? And there was a time where there was no sport. Trisha, the end of the season, there was like no basketball. I always thought there'd always be basketball and music. Basketball stopped, so it's really about lessons in gratitude. Value the opportunity that you have in front of you and just be grateful for it all. I think that's the greatest lesson.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end. Gratitude. That's definitely the biggest theme I can think of for all of us right now. So coaches, thank you so much for your time and for your insight on what's going on with Big Sky basketball.